here.
Welcome back. Not much has changed since you went away. Mike's still fat. Still doing nothing every day.
That's true.
Said he'd do lots of stuff while you fix your mind. Even Steve couldn't tell a bigger lie. He's such a tubby loser. Such a tubby loser. With such subpar humor. That out of shape blob really sucks at his job. Welcome back. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap. He's a hack, welcome back, welcome back. Mike, stand up nearly, did you win? Guaranteed. He hasn't written a single thing since then. Bunch of reasons why we'll be thrown around. Once again, he let everybody down. Excuses he'll be having. Excuses he'll be having. Creativity is surely lacking. Surely lacking. No talent goon should get fired real soon. Welcome back. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap. He's so fat. Welcome back.
12-minute song.
His show with Big Cat was middling. Not even Dan can make Mike seem interesting. Only laughs Mike is making. Only laughs he is making. Is when Albert sees him naked. Albert sees him naked. He's boring and dull. He's abominable. Welcome back. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap. A fat hack, welcome back. His job security. He's a hack, he's so fat. Because of COVID-19. He's a hack, he's so fat.
Anyway,
he's a fan of comedy, but he's so unfunny. Welcome back. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap. Mike's a hack, lazy fat piece of crap.
Wow, I did not see it going that way when I heard the melody.
Okay. Welcome back to the Rundown. It is August 29th. Like I said, this is a rundown on the Kirk Minahan Network. We are the apex predator in Kirk Minahan's Darwinism content experiment, as Steve would say. We received an overwhelming amount of complaints about Red's face, not even only his take. So Red's on the bench this week. We brought in Ned Snark. People say this show is an audio-only broadcast, so what did we do? We went and got the most handsome Minifan there is, Ned Snark. You've seen him on every show on the YouTube practically.
A little too much, right?
Me personally, I can't get enough of Ned Snark. And, of course, we have Ziggy Robinson here, the investigative journalist dog. Ziggy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Investigative journalist might not have come into play when... So just to back up, Ned, VD and I, neither of us are Game of Thrones fans, which may offend you. So I embarrassingly asked VD and Red, what is Ned Snark his actual name? Because I Googled Ned Snark thinking it was a play on something and I didn't find anything.
Yeah.
And then Red told me, of course, it's a play on Ned Snark. So not good journalism by me. I probably should have gotten to the bottom of that before asking, but that's who you're dealing with tonight.
That's what we're working with. Yeah. So it's Kirk's first week back since his mental health hiatus. I thought it was a great week of shows. Normally, a lot of the times, Kirk's first show back will be kind of, a heavy show, a shorter show, but this time it was a little different. We got a long show. Everyone seemed pretty comfortable right away. What were your guys? I'll kick it to Ned first. How did you feel about this week of shows?
Well, the anticipation since his little drop early in the week, when he came out singing for his promo that he's going to be back, and see him Monday, it was a shot of adrenaline. And I was very happy that it wasn't like while I was on vacation, because it was actually I got back home and I can get into my routine, and I was ready to go. At 11 o'clock for the drop. It was like, come on. It was I felt like a junkie waiting for my fix. Let's go. So it was terrific. I was excited to listen to it regardless, and it was a really good show. I thought he sounded fresh, rested, back in action. Didn't lose a step.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There was well, before I get into my thoughts, I just want to say, Kirk, thank you for the nice words this week. I think it's nice that our hard work is appreciated, and it's nice to know that we take the show seriously, and that's also appreciated. Which is, as VD said, why we kind of replaced Red with Ned.
Yes.
I think Kirk called Red the C word this week. The C word, surprisingly, not the condescending C word that we usually call him on the show. The other one. And just to get one more Red joke out, we decided, I thought, to go for the sex appeal, the beauty instead of the beast.
Oh,
yes.
So anyway, so back to the show.
Wait,
yeah,
Ziggy, one real
yes.
quick. I want to clarify one thing because you mentioned Kirk referencing the show on the main show this week, and I'm deeply troubled that he confuses our voices because I do not want my name attached to anything you say, any of your takes. So,
nor do I with you.
Kirk, just to clarify, this is Visionless Dave. If you hear the sniffles, that's Ziggy Robinson.
And if you hear the
one that
jokes,
stumbles over
that's
his
Ziggy
words, that's Ziggy Robinson. The one that, yeah, so we can move on from that. Ziggy, go ahead.
Yeah, so lots of anticipation for Monday. I think from everyone, especially coming off the heels of Mike and the Minifans, where Kirk made his cameo coming on to fight with Turtle Boy. And on Mike and the Minifans, at least I got the sense that he was going to rip into Mike and Steve, because I think it was Turtle Boy that brought them up. Like, oh, why aren't you going at these guys? And he was like, well, save it for Monday. So I was kind of expecting Scorched Earth. But I was pleasantly surprised to not get Scorched Earth. It was a more level-headed, surgical approach by Kirk of telling us where he stood with Mike, Steve, Jerry, Dave Cullinane, Brandon Walker, Dr. Sheffields. I mean, it was just kind of like hitting the list, going down the list, hitting where he felt. I also appreciated the unexpected calling of Rich Kelleher. Calmly put him in his place, exposed him, moved on, continue with a good show. So yeah, Monday was awesome. Tuesday was one of the best shows in a long time. It was just a great week. Great to have the show back in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys said. That the anticipation of this week, I can totally relate to. I was checking for the midnight drop. I was ready to go, and similar to you, Ziggy, I was kind of happy he didn't come out just bloodthirsty. I like the more cool, calm, collected, let's focus on the show. None of that stuff is out of his mind, obviously, but we'll get into Jerry's silence a little bit later in the after show. But yeah, like you said, it was a classic Kirk Minahan show week. We had some good callers, which we'll get into. I couldn't be more thrilled that the show is back. I'm glad we don't have to do those re-listen episodes anymore, because those were a ton of work. But it just feels good to have something fresh every day. My normal routine is back, which is nice.
Yeah, I think even though I'm not sure the reason why they went with the 4-day recording and then splitting the Thursday into a Friday episode, but I mean, I don't know if that's the new norm. If it is, that's fine. I think we're all happy. We want continued success and health for the show and for Kirk, and if that's what it'll take, that's fine. If it was another reason, then Kirk can tell me to shut up. But yeah, I think there were two really, really funny bits or segments that stuck out. The first one, obviously, the wrestling bit, wrestling segment that we just heard. And then the sneaky underrated one was the Tom Brenneman announcer segment, which was kind of a throwback to the KNC days where Kirk would make fun of Tim Neverett, Joe Castig, Dave O'Brien. And then, of course, in that Tom Brenneman announcer segment was when Steve threw out the name Mark McGuire when they were naming Reds players. So anytime you can expose Steve's lack of sports knowledge, it's going to be good.
Ned,
you're on mute, Ned. First time on the YouTube or what?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. No, I thought the first week of shows was very good. And if this is the new norm, as you say, Ziggy, with the double taping, I guess, on Thursday morning, and then drop at 11, and then Thursday night for a drop on Friday morning, that's fine. I can deal with that. That's I'll take it.
Yep.
And they were good, and they were very good. And I was watching some Twitter chatter that today's show he seemed he lacked energy and it didn't seem up to snuff. And I'm like, well, the guy just came back from a mental health break. He's dealing with a lot of things that he's got to work out and balance in his life. So and to be honest, I didn't really notice it. So it was shorter, which of course I missed my fix. You know, gotta have that fix. But that's okay. I got me enough to get through the weekend, and I did enjoy the segments. And I too liked the fact that he didn't go all out on Mike. Not so much Steve, because I didn't sense that was going to happen. I thought he'd go all out on Mike, and even for like the lack of doing anything during the break, he and Steve. But I think we know too that that was supposed to be one of those 3 weeks he was gone. 1.5 of them were supposed to be a scheduled vacation. He was supposed to go on. They're all going to take a break after Saco and into the following week.
Right.
So, you make plans on vacation. Now, granted, this is different circumstances. Maybe the plans couldn't have been changed, but I wasn't too upset about it. I would have liked a little bit of content from Mike and Steve on the main show, which I know sponsors might have an issue with that. But I think 3 hours, an hour on Monday, an hour on Wednesday, an hour on Friday wouldn't have killed anybody, right? And it would have been fun to see those two bounce off each other.
Yeah, I have to say when you brought up how they had the scheduled vacation, when I called into the show this week, I was hoping that Mike or Steve would use that as an excuse, because then I was ready to rebuttal with the fact that when Kirk took his vacation in July, he came on the YouTube Minifan Mash, I think 2 times. So even though he was on vacation, he was still putting the after hour work. So I was ready for that, but it never came up.
Well, that's why he's Kirk Minahan and Blind Mike is Blind Mike. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned, because after Mike and the Minifans last week, Kirk did reference like, oh, Steve and Mike, I'm going to address them tomorrow. Right. And so I was a little nervous about that, because I think we can all empathize with the decisions Steve made, given all the circumstances. And, I was nervous there was a chance that, not that he would be fired or anything, but that it could be, it could be bad for him. But I'm glad, Kirk made it clear that he kind of understood they were in a tough spot, and, Steve's best interest was at heart. Was it a great instinct to say, like, lay low on content? I don't know, but I also don't know everything that's going on.
Exactly.
So speaking of Mike, I think one thing we should also clear up from Mike and the Minifans last week is the first half of that show, before it kind of went off the rails with Turtle Boy and everything. Myself and Blind Prison Mike were on there, just trying to give Mike a little feedback. And I think Blind Prison Mike would admit he didn't use the best examples, or, that's the issue of being a fan and not a broadcaster. Sometimes you get caught on live and, the words just don't come out right. I don't agree with the point of like, oh, Mike needs to hang out with us at Aquaboggin, but I think the point I was trying to get across, and we were trying to get across in a larger sense, was that Mike had been a little absent on Twitter, interacting with Minifans, just kind of knowing what's going on. And so I kind of gave him the business about that. And I will say this week, I definitely did notice a little bit of a change in that. He seems to be a little more active. Now, he still absolutely bundled the understanding what was going on with the OG Minifans when he said it was a beef between drinking buddies and history buffs. And when he said that, it was so wrong that I thought, like, oh, maybe this is a joke. And like, that's kind of funny, just, like intentionally getting it that wrong. But I quickly realized, no, that was Mike just kind of being out of touch. But you know what? I'll give him a week or two to tap back in. The Miniverse does move very quickly. But I don't know if you guys, Ned, do you have any thoughts about that? About Mike in general?
Yeah, he did the YouTube shows while Kirk was out. They were okay. I didn't see anything extra. Not that I was really expecting it, because you do have to think fast on your feet and be ready to do something. Do something creative, and creativity takes a lot of work and initial talent. We have to question if Mike has that, but I mean, he knows what the job he has to do. I think he could have done a better job while Kirk was out. And I do agree completely, VD. He doesn't have to know and hang and do the things with us, but I don't think he knows exactly what's going on. And that was a perfect case about the OGs are going to war with the history buffs. And I'm like, what? That caught me by surprise. Where did that come from?
Right.
So he just loses touch, but we don't know what's going on in his life. Is he moving? I think he's moving, right?
I think he's moving. Yeah.
I think he's moving.
Let's not give him too many excuses. I mean, the easy response is he literally has said he's muted hundreds of Twitter or of Minifans on Twitter. So if you're muting people, and so he said that on Mincel Intel, I think if you're muting fans because they say one critical thing, which I get. I mean, I don't have hundreds of people coming after me and telling me I suck. I have hundreds of people praising me all the time, but that was a joke. You can laugh. So I don't know what it's like, but at the same time, you have to know, just because one person makes one critical comment doesn't mean they don't have good thoughts on the show that you should be consuming. And that criticism could have been a joke, and you misread it as a joke. So I don't see any reason to be muting fans unless it's like a habitual harasser going after stuff. And I don't think hundreds of fans are doing that.
Right. I think it could go a long way. Just, if you're not the type of guy that's going to have this amazingly unique and interesting content, there is a point to going to kind of the Dave Cullinane route where you're just engaged with people. You're just having fun. And I sometimes I wish Mike would kind of like throw his inhibitions to the wind and just go for it. And just, it's not in his nature naturally. So I know it's very difficult, and it's an easy criticism for me to say, oh, you should just change your personality and not be afraid. But I think if he was more active with the Minifans, it would go a long way to people being so critical on his content. Because, I don't think anyone denies that Mike's a good guy. I like him on the show. I do think he's regressed a little bit, but I think he can get back to where he needs to be.
I also think that if he engaged with, I don't know who's muted, right? That was, I didn't pick up on that, but okay, so what? But he's in private chat groups. I mean, there's a lot of content in there,
right?
I mean, he wouldn't have to dig very far to find something he could latch onto, right? Because actually, one thing about the Minifans overall, and to a great degree, everyone's pretty funny. They all have their own sense of humor. There's some really funny stuff in those chats. It depends on where your humor goes, but he could do a little bit of work in that regard. But I have to say, and I'm going to give one prop, is he did bring out Kirk's discussion on what happens when these black waves come upon Kirk and how it works with him, and how Kirk also powered through Saturday and Sunday at Saco, because I wasn't there Sunday, but you couldn't tell Saturday, and even Sunday morning I texted him, I DM'd him. I wish I could text him. I don't have his number, but but I DM'd him saying, great show, thank you so much, whatever. And he's like, you guys are always, it's the best, and it was a pleasure. And that was Sunday morning. Yeah,
right.
So it was like, wow, amazing.
Maybe you were the trigger, Ned.
Maybe I was the trigger.
Thanks for reminding me for that point, because one thing he said this week that kind of made me sad was he said that he felt like he had to do the Saco show. Yes. And which kind of implies that he should not have done it. And I don't know if he was just saying the Sunday show when he was feeling so down on Sunday. But I think everyone there would have understood if he had to cancel that. So that just kind of got to me, like, the fans, we understand. It's hokey, but we kind of love Kirk. We understand what he's going through as much as we can, and I think we definitely would have understood if he canceled. However, if he canceled Saturday, Ned, I was also there Saturday. I probably would have been a little mad if he canceled Saturday because I wasn't there Sunday. But overall, I think it would have been that kind of hit me, like he felt like he had to do it, and
that's a good point, because I that's exactly how I felt, but I didn't identify it until you just brought it up, Ziggy. Very good, because I was sad too. I was like, that was sad. Yeah.
There were a couple times this week where, and like you said, Mike pulled he asked some good probing questions on Kirk's mental health and where he was, and there were a couple times where Kirk mentioned, like, oh well, maybe in a couple weeks I won't be back, and it was just kind of sprinkled throughout the week. And maybe I'm reading too much into it because it's the first week back, and we do a show where we're recapping all the week's episodes, and you're taking notes. So maybe it's just me that's overthinking it, but that was kind of lingering out there. But just happy to have what we've had this week. And
one thing I will say is, in the past, he's kind of had those fleeting comments before where it's like, oh, who knows how long I'll do the show. But I don't know if it's just me looking through blinders. But this week, he sounded a little bit more comfortable with that, which I think is a good thing. I think, the less he said he enjoys doing the show. It's an escape from his troubles a lot of times. Is it a trigger? Maybe sometimes, but he just feels more comfortable, and that ties back into what we were saying earlier about him not coming out super aggressive. I just felt this comfort and kind of ease throughout this week of shows that was really comforting to me. And like I said, just Monday to Friday, it was like a trademark textbook like Kirk Minahan show week. We got a little bit of everything. We had good callers. We had, a barstool fight. It just checked all the boxes for me.
Yep.
It just seems like the show's in a really good place.
Yep.
So moving into that right now, we'll play some Baby Brandon sound. Kirk had Brandon on the show on Tuesday to fight a little bit. Here we go.
Should have reached out to Kate, and Kate can handle her own battles. The original text to Erica was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it, but I got caught up in the moment. I felt bad for a friend.
Sure.
And I reached out. Shouldn't have done it. Okay, let's say that. But you have absolutely played the victim here. Yesterday, you said all Brandon Walker wanted to do was get me fired. No, the fuck I didn't. Where are you coming up with that?
Well, when you go crawling and complaining to management like a bitch, to your own words, not mine. Like you said to Dave, you were a bitch, not me. By the way, I completely agree with you. It's the one thing you said you're right about. When you go and do that to management, like what do you think in your mind, do you want management to say, oh boy, Kirk did nothing wrong here? You're saying no, Kirk and the Minifans, who you've been shitting on for the last couple of weeks, fine, I don't care, is being, a total asshole, and you have to protect Kate, which A, I think is sexist, B, is weird, and C is a total pussy.
Hey, no, wait.
And C is
you
a total.
You don't think it's sexist.
It's like, yeah, I do. You wouldn't do that if it was Marty Mush. You wouldn't do it if it was Marty Mush. You would not. You would not.
Shut the fuck up for a second.
You wouldn't.
In this world of hypersensitivity and cancel culture and all that, you are one of the voices against PC and all that. You absolutely don't think it's sexist. All right, don't put that out there. Don't fucking be disingenuous and lie to people.
Of course, it's sexist.
Think that's sexist.
Of course, it's sexist. You went and protected somebody because she was a woman. If it was Marty Mush going through the same situation, you would not do the same thing. You would not do the same thing. You know it, and I know it. You wouldn't.
I absolutely would. Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
Okay, you would. Fine, you do the same thing.
All right, so Brandon Walker, I personally have never heard Kirk kind of be so confused by someone, and I can't lie, I'm a little bit confused by him too. I definitely have my opinions. Seems like everyone in the Miniverse right now has their take on Brandon Walker. Is he a friend? Is he a foe? Is he in on the joke? Ziggy, what's going on with Brandon Walker?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's just confusion. I like Kirk mentioned in today's Friday's episode, which was taped Thursday, he has no idea where to stand on Brandon. And I think it's because we're trying to analyze someone in Brandon Walker who is just not deep at all and really doesn't seem to put much thought into what he says or does, where Kirk is kind of the master at analyzing and picking apart, like, what's the actual meaning there and ulterior motives. It doesn't seem like there's anything like that with Brandon. It's just what you see is what you get, which is just whatever comes out of his mouth. It's just a blubbering mess. I think Big Cat usually calls him a stumbling like lummox, which is a pretty good description for him. I did, to be fair, Kirk was also kind of back and forth throughout the week between playing along and being serious, but I think he was just trying to gauge Brandon's what Brandon was projecting, and then he was trying to go along with that. But for the most part throughout the week, Kirk was trying to bring it back to lighthearted jokes and even making some jokes at his own expense. I think he texted Brandon after their phone call on Tuesday, like, oh, thanks for coming on. All 8 of my listeners will appreciate it. So He was trying to set the tone throughout the week of it being playful, but then Brandon would come back hard. So yeah, it was just kind of a dance back and forth. But yeah, Brandon, not a deep person, probably not a smart person because he's from the dumbest state in the country. But yeah, there he is.
Ned, how are you feeling about Brandon Walker?
So I have to say, I got to play dumb that I had no idea who he was until Kirk went to Miami and they did that show together. And he just sounded like another jock, but I like the chemistry. To be honest, I do like the chemistry and the possibility of that 80s trivia show. Right. And then of course he went out. But I really think this just escalated because actually, Davy Mouse just, went up one side and down the other. And we found out who went to, Erica over this whole thing. And that I think struck a nerve in Kirk. And then he was dressed down by Dave, which is bad. I don't think he has the mental aptitude and I shouldn't say it because that he's not stupid, but it does take a skill to keep up, to spar with someone verbally. Right. When and even though Portnoy's the president, he's pretty open. You can kind of go back at him too, right? Kirk has done that. Yeah. They all do that. But I don't think Brandon has the wherewithal to do that or the wits to do that. And then it just rolled over. It escalated, rolled over into Kirk's side. And the fact that they tried that he wanted to script out an argument about it was totally bizarre to me. I'm like, what the hell? And of course I found it highly enjoyable, the way Kirk laid it out. But I was just like, who would do that? That's really, really strange. So I think Brandon is limited in intellect, thinks this is kind of a show, and it is a show, right? But he totally misreads Kirk's level of intensity, intelligence, and the way he sees things.
Right, and I don't envy Brandon Walker because I got a little taste of it in Mike and the Minifans last week. But when you're staring down the barrel of Kirk Minahan in like a debate, just things, it gets escalated to a different level. And I don't know, your tongue starts, tying itself in a knot. And so he's definitely like venturing into uncharted waters at Barstool. Like no one has ever tried to fight back publicly, really. So I understand that he doesn't really have a game plan. He doesn't know what to do. And I think Mike had a really good point actually on the show of, I think he's only been at Barstool for like a year and a half. So he's on a ton of shows and he's all over, but he's like 1 year into being a content person. So I would understand that he doesn't have kind of the sparring capabilities that Kirk has. I mean, even if he was 50 years into his content career, he wouldn't have that. There's definitely a different level there, but it was good to see Dave kind of ream him out, and he doesn't really have a leg to stand on because he admitted he was a pussy and a bitch and that he shouldn't have gone behind Dave's back and texted Erica. He came on Kirk's show and he said, quote, "Your talent is immeasurable and I would give anything to have your talent." So there's no really arguing that. And then third, after he came on the show on Tuesday, he was on Pick Central with Big Cat, and he admitted that he lost. He's like, yeah, I went on Kirk Minahan's show. I got beat up. So that's what confuses me is that he still goes on social media and just makes these wild claims. And I think he's appealing to the uneducated stoolie who just knows Kirk as like the agitator of Barstool. Yep. But what I don't think he realizes by doing that is he's sending a lot of people Kirk's way, because I was a original Barstool guy, been reading it since I was in middle school. I was right at the age where Barstool kind of had this rise. So I was right there at the beginning, and I totally just lost my train of thought. But
okay, Brandon.
yeah, I'm pulling a Brandon Walker. Right
I think you mentioned how Brandon's only been there a year and a half, and he's on all these different shows. I think the fact that he's on all these different shows where Kirk just has one show he's focused on and he's thinking about it throughout the day, that's kind of why Brandon seems so kind of willy-nilly with what he throws out. And it's specifically the video with Kate where they said Kirk Minahan show was sponsoring the video. That's probably something they put like 5 seconds of thought into, because that's one of 5 pretty lame shows that Brandon does, other than the one he does with Big Cat. So he just kind of, okay, let's just do that, and then we're on with it. Where with Kirk, if he were trying to actually take a dig at Brandon like that, he'd be thinking about it, he'd be brainstorming, he'd come up with something that's actually funny and that actually kind of hits him deep.
Right. Exactly. Yep. No, I think Brandon, he's not a deep thinker. He's skimming topics. And so what was it? The show that was recorded last night, which must have been in the afternoon, I guess, because Brandon again was at the train.
Yeah.
And right. So what was he going home, right? From the office, I guess?
I think it was yesterday morning. I think they recorded all at once.
Oh, okay.
Because I called in for the second one.
Ah, okay. Got it. So I wasn't sure of the timeline, but he uses the excuse of the train. Can't hear you because I'm getting on the train. It's, the Shirley Luong excuse. And then he goes all DEFCON 1. Yeah. And where you suck, get my dick out. It was like, come on, that's the the last resort. That's now he's Willie Colon, right? Right. You can't beat Kirk. That's when you end up just resorting to the locker room bullying. Okay, bullying's too strong a word. Sorry, the locker room intimidation.
Right. Yeah, just no depth to the humor, no depth to anything, and it's very confusing for a lot of people. It's funny to see everyone on the Miniverse, everyone on Twitter kind of having their take. I will say I don't think he's a real enemy, but I don't give him credit for being super in on the joke. Like I see a lot on Twitter, people are like, "Oh, you don't get it. He's getting clicks out of this." And this is what I was saying before. I just remembered my train of thought actually, is that these moments where it's like normal Barstool people being exposed to Kirk through some kind of beef or drama.
Yeah.
Like that was my moment where I kind of discovered Kirk, because I wasn't from the Boston area, but I was a Barstool guy. But I remember hearing them talk about the rundown. Like, yeah, this guy Kirk Minihane is, I forget even the specific instance, but he was going after someone at Barstool. And that's when I first listened to the show and was like, okay, this is what I didn't know I was looking for. So by Brandon engaging in kind of just this dumb Twitter stuff, I think it's actually a benefit for Kirk, where a lot of people think it's going the other way, and like Kirk listeners are jumping ship for Brandon, which is,
and they want, and that's right, and the feeling that the Barstool New York people give is, yeah, you know, this is the way it is going. Like, you know, nobody downloads you, nobody listens to you, nobody knows who you are.
Right.
You know, belittle. Part of that is provincialism, because he's in Boston and they're in New York. Yeah. But look, the way I just thought of it, VD, you just, and I don't mean to jump in front of you, Ziggy, but just my final thought on Brandon Walker. He's not a real enemy. He's like Poland in World War II. He's like the country you want to fight against your real enemy.
Wrong show.
Well, no, what I mean is he's the guy you go through to get to your real enemy. He kind of, he kind of runs interference where he's not, you know, he could be kind of a friend, kind of a not, you know, he's a nobody.
Yeah, I think it can't
Poland.
be. It cannot be understated how big of a dig it is to not tag the show account in that tweet. Barstool Sports has 2.5 million followers on Twitter, and they're putting content out, which Kirk Minihane show is the butt of the joke, but they're not tagged. I mean,
right.
And when they were talking about that, when they talked to Brandon, they're not sure who runs the Twitter account. I think that's kind of a bad sign for Steve, in my opinion, because Steve should be in tune with the people running social media so that they can get proper promotion. I know Kirk doesn't want the promotion, or he doesn't want to say he wants the promotion, but that should be Steve's job to make sure. I mean, if they always want more listeners and more downloads and more exposure, and that's probably the best way to do it, is a Twitter account with 2.5 million.
That's classic Ziggy blaming Steve.
I had to find a way.
If you find me a tweet of Barstool's main account where they have tweeted about another Barstool show and not tag them, I will personally Venmo you $10, because I doubt that has ever happened. It's not on the job of the people whose show it is to say, hey, tag me. I mean, my mother knows how to tag on Twitter. It's common courtesy. It's a deliberate shot, and I don't want to throw any wild accusations out there with no investigation at all. But I do know that Joshua, who Mike had on Mike and the Minifans, you know, he's heavily involved in the social team. So who knows? He's probably in their ear. Who knows? But I do hope that Gaz found out, and because we know Gaz is a Minifan, so I hope that got to Gaz, which I'm sure it did, and I hope some people got dressed down for it, because it's just crazy. And to blame it on Steve is honestly even crazier. So bad Ziggy.
Yeah, and it's not like what DJK did earlier this week when he tagged the Ringer, but he tagged some random person whose Twitter account happened to be the Ringer, and he just had like 300 followers. So it's not like they tagged the wrong account. They just didn't make an effort to tag anything.
Right.
Hashtag hire DJK.
Hire DJK. I was in there.
Yep. Any last thoughts on Brandon, Ned? Are we good?
No, we're good. He's Poland.
Got it.
Yep.
So sensitive. Okay. You know what he's going to be sensitive about? When he runs into the Minihane RKO.
And there's Dan Katz coming from the top rope. We thought he was a neutral party. Where does he stand?
Oh, you Walker. Oh, my God, he's a Minifan after all. I can't believe it.
That's the thing, take time shirt he's wearing. We should have known when he came into the ring.
What is Kirk Minihane doing with Jerry? Is that he's with Bob Murchison after all? Good God, he's been a Murchison guy all along. Minihane, you son of a bitch. We'll see you tomorrow night. I mean, what the fuck? Content game.
And the referee takes off his hood. That's Adam Minihane! Out of nowhere!
My God, he's kissing Shirley Leung! Look at these two, it's so sadistic! Oh my God, they've been in love the whole time!
It's gonna be a slobber knocker!
What the hell? What? Good God, Geary can see! He can see all along! Oh God, he's a genius! He's an evil genius!
All right, so we referenced it a little bit earlier when we were discussing kind of Mike's week on the show, especially following that Mike and the Minifans that got out of control. But Ziggy, you called into the show. You kind of had it out with Mike, gave him some criticism similar to what I did on Mike and the Minifans. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that Mike kind of body bagged you. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, no, I could only assume that person was trolling because no one with a brain would think that I got body bagged in that situation. But VD, I think the question needs to be asked: did we fix Mike?
I don't want to take credit, but
no, we can take credit. Kirk can take a little credit because he did some toying with him on Monday, but you really peppered him on Saturday, and then I came in for the kill on Tuesday with my call. Yeah, I mean, I put him in a pretzel. Although I think I tweeted this out when I played the call for my wife afterwards, and her response was, "This is what it's like to argue with you." And then I was like, no, you don't understand. Like Mike he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And she's like, but he was saying that he was. I was like, no, you don't understand. And then she's like, why are you raising your voice?
Case in point right there. And it shouldn't go without mentioning that even after your call, I think it was on Tuesday, we had a Go for Geary, and John Stewart, legendary Minifan, called in with some very similar sentiments to you, Ziggy. Definitely.
Yeah, and the only reason I called was I like I said at the top of the show, I was expecting Scorched Earth, and I thought Mike would be kind of in the path of that. And Kirk he told him how he felt, but he wasn't. He left some meat on the bone, so that's why I felt like I needed to call in. I had my talking points. I tried to get them out as best as I could.
Your litany of notes.
Yes, I expounded on my litany of notes, which the fact that Steve Robinson made fun of me for that phrasing when he made up the most ridiculous phrasing in his Bowden writings was quite apocryphal.
I happen to enjoy those Bowden writings. Yeah,
you would, yeah.
Nope. I do think you guys fixed them, though. I do think, but the 1-2 punch of you both has straightened them out because he got okay on Wednesday. I was getting annoyed. He brought out some good points with Kirk, of course, and I'm glad. For the record, I'm glad Kirk didn't go Scorched Earth on either one of those guys. I thought Steve would be less deserving, to be honest, than Mike, but I'm glad he didn't. But Mike will trip up again. That's the thing. I don't know if he's learning. That's the problem. If he's improving, and I mean, I said something to one of you. I mean, it was one of you guys. You know, when Napoleon was 28, he was at the gates of Vienna. He'd already conquered Italy. And Mike, what has Mike done? You know, it's like, come on, dude, get going. You've got a golden opportunity. So I do want him to improve. I just haven't seen it. I know,
that's kind of where my frustration was coming from. Is like the opportunity is there, and you could have taken it. And Steve said lay low, and he didn't even push back at all.
Right.
So he didn't even ask why he should lay low. He just assumed that, or he just accepted it almost as if he was kind of wanting that to be directed to him.
Yeah, it's like when you wake up and you find out there's a snow day, you're like, oh, great. Or, you know, if someone doesn't show up to a meeting, like I'm not calling them, like, where are you? I'm like, okay, great, meeting's canceled.
Right.
But I do think, you know, Mike had his moments on the show this week. I enjoyed the Go for Geary he did on the YouTube. I think it worked well when he had a co-host. So, you know, when that doorway of calls was getting jammed up, he could kind of go back and forth with Steve from Providence. So I think moving forward, he should have a co-host on for Go for Geary. I thought it was a pretty good episode.
But even John Stewart's call was the highlight of that whole show, to be honest. With all due respect to Steve,
it was. Yeah.
John Stewart's call was the best. You know, it was made out of real caring and kindness. You know,
yes.
It was interesting.
And I do think John Stewart listens to this show. John Stewart, if you're out there, we want to get you on the rundown one day. So DM me or Ziggy. We need you on here. But
yeah, we could probably break the Dale Bears 18-hour live stream KMN YouTube record if we had John on.
Ziggy, you think you have a litany of notes? John Stewart would come in here locked and loaded. I
would love that.
I think they're in his head.
Yeah. Oh, he seems like that kind of guy. He would do more prep work for this show than Mike has done in the history of the show. I think we can all agree there. I complimented him earlier on being a little bit more active on Twitter. There was a couple moments in the show where he had some back and forth banter with Kirk that really reminded me of some of the earlier shows. I remember I re-listened to the Rich Mandarin segment kind of recently where they were going back and forth. And the Steve, my good man, just kind of, you know, back in the show before and I don't think it's because of his contract that he suffered, but pre-contract seems to be a really good era for Mike. I think he had this hunger that just isn't really there now, but some of his chemistry with Kirk, Kirk was able to pull it out of him this week and, polish a turd, for lack of a better word. But I think if the willingness is there, the average Minifan wants him to succeed. The biggest criticism I get from Mike is that you have this opportunity, do more. So, and then the second criticism to that is like, oh, well, that show sucks. But that one's a little bit more lighthearted. I do think the vast majority of Minifans want him to succeed and just want him to kind of take the opportunity. But yeah, we did lose Last Resort this week, so rest in peace to that show. Yeah. Another one in the Blind Mike graveyard of shows. Although it wasn't his fault, but there does seem to be a reoccurring pattern. The Cheers show is still chugging along.
Yeah, it sounds like we might get some Mike and Ted content as well. He hinted at that earlier.
Perfect, right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even going back to the marathon, the Davy race, the Davy marathon, that was fantastic.
Right. Yeah, well, I think it was on Go for Geary. Steve from Providence threw out the suggestion of Dave versus Dan, and because I'm not 40 years old, I had to Google what that was, but it appears to have been a televised kind of decathlon between two. I don't know, Ned, I'm sure you can fill in the details of who Dave and Dan were, but
no,
it looked like some kind of athletic competition show, which would be pretty funny. Mike versus Ted, or Mike versus someone else with a disability. That's always fun to make fun of the disabled.
Yeah,
but
it was heartening. The marathon was heartening. You get a guy in a wheelchair, and you get a blind guy who's grossly overweight pushing him up a hill.
Or even the Stocko videos. Anytime.
Yes.
The brilliant minds of Ted Sellers and Mike Geary link up, we seem to get something entertaining out of it. So hopefully we get more of that content coming soon.
VD, I want to interject because I said at the top, I asked the question, did we fix Mike? So I feel like I should give a couple examples, at least where I'm coming from. True. And maybe I was wearing rose-colored glasses because, like I said, I destroyed Mike when I called in. Absolutely destroyed him. And then I felt bad afterwards. So maybe that's why the rest of the week I had rose-colored glasses on, but he was good with the wrestling bit with Brandon and with Kirk going back and forth on that, and which is a very that's underrated how difficult it is to keep up with Kirk and that kind of tit for tat riffing. He had got in 2 questions in the Brandon Walker interview, which usually gets 0 questions in. He brought up that Stuttering John story, which Kirk didn't know about, so that was pretty good, even though Kirk was on mental leave, so that's probably why he didn't hear about it. And he shared a couple personal stories that led to some good content with the phone call with his dad and talking about Alba's parents. So overall, I think, and his own mother, of course. Yeah. The what was it, the 7 or the? He
gave her a 7.
Those were harsh ratings. That's pretty harsh. And he said he was going off the scale that 5 is average, which I don't know. A 7 just seems harsh to give to your own mother.
Seems low. Well, she's like in my wheelhouse. I kind of like Italian women of that age.
Yeah.
So she's like an 8, an easy 8.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure on her dancing circuit she gets down to Miami at some point. So maybe maybe you guys can link up sometime. Moving on from that, we just mentioned a few moments ago Steve from Providence. He was on Go for Geary. His call-in show is dead, which I'm kind of bummed about because I enjoyed him taking calls. But we do have a little bit of dissent in the OG Minifan world. We mentioned before Mike completely bundled it and said it was Drinking Buddies versus History Buffs. Is that the show, right?
It was OG versus History Buffs.
Yes, which is very wrong. I have actually reached out to the OG Minifans to get some official statements, which I will read right here. So, Ziggy, can you kind of give us of what you know, the little bit of basic background on what's going on here?
So I know that the OG Minifan show, I believe, records on Wednesdays. And on Tuesday of this week, Steve joined Mike on Go for Geary, and he told the rest of the OGs that he could not record on Wednesday. He could not record on Wednesday because he had something with his son, but he could still record on Tuesday with Mike. So it was perceived that he chose Mike over the OGs.
Oh God. Well, yeah, there seems to be the sentiment around, and I'll get to an R.A. Minahan statement right here, but there seems to be a sentiment going around that Steve from Providence, possibly encouraged by Ziggy Robinson, is making a push for the main show.
Oh.
He wants Blind Mike out. He wants in. He wants to be the third voice. So right now, I'll read R.A. Minahan's statement. He said, "It is unfortunate that Steve from Providence would downplay his hurtful actions, such as saying he no longer has time for the OG shit show in public, while in private making it all too clear that his intent is to squeeze Mike out of the picture." So that's what R.A. Minahan is thinking. I also, being the good journalist I am, reached out to Steve from Providence for comment, and he says, "Tim and I wish TJ and RA had the same passion for talking about Kirk as they do for ripping baseball cards and talking about the discovery of Plymouth Rock." So
the discovery of Plymouth Rock, not the landing on Plymouth
right.
Rock.
Beautifully said. Beautifully
Wonderful.
said. And I think possibly most eloquently said from TJ Hubbard, we get, "Given the circumstances surrounding the OG Minifan show, the show is on hiatus until further notice. These circumstances include other show members not being available for taping, being unresponsive to texts and direct messages while reaching out to other show members, significant others, and asking for private information and pictures. This was deemed inappropriate. Comments made privately will remain private while there is a continuing dialogue between all parties. I appreciate the discretion, and until this matter is resolved, I have no more comments." So we've
Definitely
got some trouble in
crossed.
paradise.
Yes.
I love the Minifan show. I know Kirk watches it. I'm not sure if either of you do.
Yep.
But it is, to me, it's my, I think Gig's show gets a lot of praise, as it should, because the amount of work goes into it.
Yes.
But if you just want to get a sample of what a Minifan is, and you tune into the OG Minifan show for about 5 minutes, and you can hear about Steve from Providence shitting in a sock. You
Yep.
can hear about Tim and Canton prank calling Australian radio shows just for fun. I mean, to me, it's a view into the Miniverse. It's kind of a microcosm of everything going on. I'll miss the OG show. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on it.
Well, I would say the OG show probably jumped the shark when they had that ASL signer on the show.
Oh, really?
Sign language, yeah.
Oh, I
That
love
would
that.
have
I
been
thought
the
that
jump
was
the shark moment.
fantastic.
And I also would say it's a little bit of revisionist history from RA, because the original OG Minifan show was just Steve and TJ. And then Kirk started praising it and saying it was his favorite show. And then RA jumped on the bandwagon.
So you're saying
So-
R.A. Minahan is in fact the clout chaser.
Or he's the Yoko Ono. I don't know.
Or he's the Yoko Ono.
Yeah, see,
And-
we talked about this before. I thought I'd have to cast Mike in the role of Yoko Giri.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
he's waving, he's offering a taste of the main show, even though it might be at his expense, but co-hosting and going for Giri and go for Giri and that. I don't think RA is a clout chaser, and I know Tim isn't either, and neither's TJ.
Yeah.
Steve,
But
though.
TJ just threw a heavy accusation of requesting significant others for picks.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big one. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. There's a lot going on behind the
There's a-
scenes here.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
personally, I hope it gets resolved, because I want the OG Minifan show back. It sounds like they're kind of in a standoff right
Me
now,
too.
but
Yep.
if there's anything this show can do to repair the relations between the parties, I will contribute, because I want the show back. I miss it.
Yep. I mean, I say this about every show. I love it. It's my favorite. I'm always watching and cracking up. My wife wonders what the hell I'm laughing at. Those four guys have a great rapport.
Yeah.
And you want to be in there with them. You want to be sitting there, cracking a beer, with them.
Yeah.
Because they just enjoy each other's company. So I'm going to be optimistic. Like I thought the Beatles would regroup too, but they didn't. But
Yeah.
I'm going to hold up. They will.
I don't want to judge a book by its cover, and I'll give a little plug to your other show here, Ned, but I didn't think R.A. Minahan had that kind of intellectual depth on him until I saw History Buffs. I mean, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, you could tell from the drinking buddies that
Drinking buddies.
Yeah. He's a smart guy. You guys had Steve, you had S.E. Robinson on the program this week.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was a lot of fun. Steve picked the topic. So of course he picked a topic whose name took us, 10 hours to learn to pronounce, and we still screwed it up when we were recording. Thucydidide. Okay. But no, it was good. But he just went off like a rocket. You know, if you watch, if you've seen it, the first almost 6 minutes, he just goes.
Oh yeah.
KDL said, Steve, can you give us just a quick overview of the Peloponnesian War? And 7 minutes later, we're still talking about the Peloponnesian War.
That's why I love Big Steve. You get him in front of a camera, he starts flexing that muscle.
Yeah.
Any YouTube show I've seen him go on, he has hijacked. He did the same thing to the Channel Zero guys.
Yes.
I love it. It's an alpha male move. He did have some comments, however, this week about, I think a caller complained, why didn't we get a Robinson report? And he said, I like to spend time on things that actually add value, which I thought was a great shot at Mike. But Ziggy, how did you feel about that?
Well,
did you take that personally?
I didn't take it personally, but the thing that he did throw in that sentence was that it doesn't add value to this little business we're running, which was kind of strange when they work for Barstool Sports. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he was just throwing words out there. But that was a little...
He does throw words out there. I wouldn't read too much.
But in addition, he mentioned earlier in the week that they hired a web development intern. So, I mean, we all kind of know that behind the scenes, they're probably still always thinking about subscription service. But there were some clues that Steve threw out there that the old Zigster caught on to.
On that point, one that I kind of noticed was, did you see Thursday night before the Friday show came out, they released a little bit of it on the YouTube. And like you said, Ziggy, I think that's just an effort to grow the YouTube page. Looking ahead, growing the mailing list, growing the YouTube page. But yeah, and we spoke about it earlier, but the format of kind of taping a double show Thursday morning and leaving calls for Friday, I really like it, because if you're one of the all-star callers to the show, you kind of know that, okay, Thursday is my day. Like, let's have the big dogs call in on Thursday. And, I don't discriminate against callers. I know a lot of people sometimes get annoyed. And Kirk mentioned it on the show this week, like, oh, I don't want to hear Kirk talk about someone talk about a podcast recommendation. I understand people coming from that place. They just love the show so much. And it seems like Kirk understands that too. So I don't discriminate against callers, but I do think it would be cool if Thursday kind of became the day where, if you have something really good you want to try out, you call in Thursday.
Yeah, calling takes a lot of what I found. It takes a lot of prep, at least for me. I mean, I'm sure someone like Tim, who's just been doing it for years, can wake up and just call right away and have a great call. But it is nice to have that advance warning or notice of when they're doing a show. I noticed when they used to do the night drops or the night tapings, and you didn't know they were doing a night taping, you'd get a lot of bad calls because people would just see the number. They're not used to calling. They call in, and it's just like a train wreck. Of course, then it's making fun of them is like kind of the best part of the calls to me. I also, since Kirk left the Discord and stopped doing the AMAs, you get a lot more calls of just like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite book?
Right.
Where that's something that people would ask in the AMAs.
But he loves that though. He
does. Yeah.
He stops. Okay, stop. What? Okay, yeah. And then they'll talk about what was the one that this week. Oh shit! I meant to bring it up too. It was about A Few Good Men. And he just
that was a great call.
thing.
Oh yeah,
that was a really good call.
That guy was going back and forth too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some overall this week. I thought we had some great calls. I personally, I always love to hear from the Trumps. Obviously, I love Copper Doodle, but we had a pretty good hypothetical thrown out by one caller. The putting versus the years in jail hypothetical. And I thought, per usual, Big Steve came through. I listened to that part a couple times over and over right when I heard it, because the way he just leaned into that bit and kind of was on the fly convincing himself that there's actually a benefit to doing a year in jail. That's why I love Big Steve. He's such a weirdo. Anytime you get a view into his mind, you're getting a view that's not your own. Ziggy, as a Steve hater, I need you to admit that was very funny. I think improv from Steve.
I think, unlike Red, I don't just blatantly say I hate Steve Robinson. I'm at least willing to have some nuance there. I think I DM'd you, VD, that I hate to admit, but I did. That was very well done by Steve, because Mike, the question was first thrown to Mike, and he was just like, "Oh no, I wouldn't make any. I wouldn't do it." Okay, well that's not really bringing content to the show. So then Steve kind of went went deep into the rabbit hole of that.
Yeah, classic cynical Mike was like, "Oh, I'd miss them all. I'd do 5 years in jail." But Steve kind of turned it and made it interesting. And I actually had thoughts on that. I think Mike might enjoy white collar prison. I mean, you have no responsibilities. You're kind of waking up, going through the motions. You get your meals. You got a bunch of buddies to hang around. Back early in the show during Kingpin Pete's first appearance, he told Kirk that Kirk would enjoy jail because there's no Google, so the smartest guy in the room kind of controls the narrative. And I would love just the vision of Mike and Kirk being in a white collar jail together is just fascinating to me, and my imagination can kind of go in a lot of directions there. But I think Mike should reconsider that. I don't think he would mind white collar jail at all.
Yeah. That went somewhere I didn't expect. That was good.
I did love the new nickname for Steve, American History Steve.
American History Steve.
Yeah,
I'm glad you didn't say Captain Nonsense, because that nickname is off base and it does not apply.
Yeah, so Visionless Dave has a grudge against that blind owl caller.
I do.
Yes.
But I do have to give him credit. Yes, he's boring, but he was called boring, and then he called back, and he challenged Steve. He got embarrassed by Steve.
Yep.
But it's still good. I encourage any caller that has a minor slight at someone on the show to call in and go at them hard, because those are some of the funnier calls.
Yeah, and it definitely
Steve really gets riled up.
It definitely never goes wrong and gets turned around on you. So I definitely encourage everybody to do that. We had a moment on the show with one of the callers this week where we get it every now and then, where it sounds like he just got so nervous mid-question that he hung up. And and Kirk kind of criticized him for it. But I do remember Kirk in the past has said when he's done his prank calls, there's something weird where about as soon as you know you're on the air, just kind of this, like, at least for me, this tightening happens in my throat. And I've heard him talk about it. Ziggy, you've described calling the main show to me as an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Do you want to give any insight to your calls, or just because I do actually see a lot of people on Twitter every now and then, you'll get the critics that are like, "Oh, the calls stink." I really enjoy the calls. Not every call is great, but I encourage people to call, and Ziggy can give you a little tutorial on how to be prepared and how to be a good caller.
Yeah, I mean, not to expose how the sausage is made, but I try to start off with a joke, and the best jokes are if you can come up with it when you're on hold, and then it's really topical to them because that's not what they're expecting. So you get the biggest laughs when someone references something they were just talking about. And then I usually have some kind of making fun of Mike or Steve. And then if I have a legitimate question I want for Kirk, I'll ask Kirk. So like one time I really just wanted a Bruce Springsteen book recommendation, but I knew I couldn't just call and ask for a Bruce Springsteen book recommendation. So I had to couch it with a joke and then some ribbing of Mike.
I think the key to calls, we hear it all the time, is just you gotta have a couple layers. You
Exactly.
You get through that first layer and you got nothing. You better be quick-witted or on your feet, because you have.
Have you called Ned?
No,
never.
Nope,
have you thought about it?
No, I've got nothing to add. What am I going to say?
Have you called? Did you used to call sports radio or
no?
Never.
No,
okay.
No.
See, I never called anyone else besides Kirk's show.
Yeah. I don't think I can bring anything to it. I'm also in the Brandon Walker mold. Not that I'm Poland, but I'm not that quick-witted. So I would get tongue-tied and stammer and trip over myself, even if I had a great line to say, even if I had something relative to say based on what they're just talking about while you're on hold. I don't trust myself in that situation.
Well, we don't want you to run out of material for one of your 9 YouTube shows, so maybe you should save it. Maybe you should save it.
I know, like it's becoming a hua, so I gotta. It's like I gotta scale it back a bit. I didn't realize it either. My wife's like, "How many of these are you doing this week?" And I'm like, "Shit, that's right. This is like the third or fourth one this week, and I got tomorrow night too." But
lining them up.
But there's overexposure, boys. I know you're much younger. Take a lesson from an old dog. Don't overexpose yourself.
Don't overexpose.
So, well, and as my downfall is imminent from overexposure, learn from my mistakes.
I can't get enough Ned Snark. Ned, you are known as the torchbearer of the Jerry hater of the Miniverse, I think. After Mike and the Minifans last week, Kirk made it very clear how he feels about Jerry, and then we didn't get any of it on the show, and we didn't get any mentions of Kirk on Jerry's show. How do you feel about this whole situation? I think for me, it's probably the right move for Jerry to go silent. We know he doesn't want the fight, But give us your thoughts on that whole scenario.
Well, I also think this wraps around that Jerry has, and I got to say from the start, I've not downloaded a single episode. I won't give him that satisfaction. So I have not listened to his show except through other means, like when they play it on Kirk's show. So I don't really follow him. And to be honest, my life is so much better. You know, that it's like not when I no longer listen to Felger and Maz too, that your life just naturally improves in the outlook. There's riots all around us, but I'm pretty good because I don't listen to Jerry Callahan. So that's all the wind behind my sails. So I don't really care, but I think it's very smart of him, especially with Turtle Boy as his sidekick, who got himself into trouble using some inappropriate language. And then of course, Jerry, I'm sure Dave Cullinane didn't do it on his own, but Jerry told him to dump some audio. Right. Inappropriate, but Mr. Free Speech, dumped the audio. By the way, I'm criticizing him based on his own actions. I'm not saying I wouldn't dump the audio either, because I don't think that would be fair. I might dump it as well. Right. But the fact is he's duplicitous and he's out for himself. Jerry is about Jerry. And I tried to tell Kirk that in person when we briefly made eye contact on Mike and the Minifans that Saturday before Saco. Right. And I said, the problem is, I said, we care. And I pointed to the people. I said, we care about you and your well-being. And it's clear to us that Jerry never cared about you, because when the people who you thought you were your friends on the casting couch turned on you and didn't support you through your rough times, he was still friends with every one of them. Right. And he would say, Shaughnessy's a great guy, or Borges is a great guy, or whatever, and Kirk's like, you fucking kidding me? Yeah. These are the guys that are going after me, and you're kind of defending them. So I just think he's a phony. He's fake. He's superficial. He doesn't believe anything he says, because he when push comes to shove, he backs right down. Right. So now he's in the perfect environment. Nobody's listening, and he can just shout at the old man yelling at the sky. Yeah, I mean, I was never a listener of his. I wasn't an EEI guy, but I've tasted samples of that show, and it is just a stereotypical political, hamster wheel where you're just going around and around, and I don't enjoy it. It's not intellectually interesting to me. Not at all. So I'm glad I'm not caught up in that. Ziggy, I know you're an EEI guy. You have made comments to me where and we got a little taste of it with Brandon Walker on Tuesday, where you like when someone will come on and fight with Kirk, and Jerry obviously used to fill that role. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts about how you like kind of there being an argumentative figure there, and what do you think about this whole Jerry situation? Yeah, well, so my context and my kind of experience with Jerry is I was always a Kirk guy, and I only listened to Mutt and Callahan because, well, obviously first for the potential Kirk updates that we may get, which then never really came to fruition because Jerry was a coward and wouldn't mention him by name, and I just like Mutt, so. I've never really liked Jerry at all. I don't listen to the show. I do have to say, when you talked about scrubbing audio, I was checking out his Facebook page the other day, and the description for the Jerry Callahan podcast is uncensored political sports revenge. So might need to change that, because it's definitely now censored. So, I'm sorry, it said what? Uncensored? It said uncensored, political, whatever. But did it have revenge in there too? Politics and revenge, of course, yeah. So then two of the four adjectives are untrue. Right, there you go. Yep. Yeah. What was your question, VD? Just in the aspect of having someone on the show that will argue more with Kirk, people to attack Mike and Steve for being yes men, but for me, I enjoy when we get the occasional Brandon Walker fight, or we get a Robert Little or someone coming on the show occasionally. But for me, if you have someone there that's going to fight with you all day, it just becomes that kind of hamster wheel of where it's like you're fighting, but it resets every day. And is it real? I kind of enjoy Kirk having his own universe, and anyone brave enough to step up to him, they're always welcome. But I'm kind of glad it's not someone in that chair every day that's just being the contrarian. I definitely don't want that. I do, and not to I know we're kind of going all in circles. When Brandon, I think he said that Kirk was wasting his talents because he had two untalented yes men next to him. Yes, Mike and Steve are untalented, and they're kind of yes men. But I think, like you said, that's fine. But I did appreciate the Brandon Walker call-in, because it was the fresh. You got to see Kirk
exercise that argumentative muscle that he doesn't
Right.
always get to use on the show. But I don't listen to the show for like the political talk or for the more serious discussions. I mean, I appreciate it, but that's not why I listen. So it's not like a necessity for me to have that on the show. I will say I do like when Kirk and Steve both agree on a political issue and Mike is just kind of there for the ride.
No idea.
It's a little boring to me because there's no pushback, and a lot of times Steve won't even give like play devil's advocate or give the opposing side, which I would hope at least they could give the opposition side. So when they're talking about the protests with the NBA protests, Kirk was like, I just don't understand what they're trying to accomplish. And Steve's answer was like, they just want Biden to be elected, which is maybe the ulterior motive, but I think Steve could have done a better job of giving the actual reasons behind the protest.
Whoa. VD, Ziggy's going after our guy, Steve. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be talking about Jerry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're talking.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Aren't they the
That's
same
what he
person
does.
or no?
Oh no.
No, the difference is that at least Steve has deep intellectual thought. He does.
Yes,
I mean, he
that's
almost
true.
has like he almost has like Asperger's type focus on certain subjects where he just knows down to the minutia. Jerry doesn't. Jerry's reading headlines and forming opinions. And by the way, when they used to fight on the show, and it wasn't always VD, it wasn't like Ziggy can say it wasn't nonstop, arguing. What happened was Kirk started challenging Jerry's previously unchallenged viewpoints, and he was just you could literally hear Jerry deflating on the air, like, oh wait, Dino never did this, Dino doesn't criticize my, Dino lets him sit back and gives him 20 minutes, or I'd say maybe 15 minutes an hour. Let Jerry do his right wing rant thing unopposed. And then, of course, when somebody does call in, saying, Jerry, your argument's a bet, boom, there goes the dump button. The guy's gone.
Yeah.
But Kirk would start poking holes, started popping that balloon. But Jerry's response was always more personal, where, hey, your little podcast you do sucks,
Right.
And it's like that really bothered him. But I always thought that Kirk loved Jerry. Jerry used Kirk. And I think that was it on Monday's show when Kirk said, Jerry is toxic to him. He's 100%. Finally, he's there. Because I'm not going to say I've said it, but I felt this way for a long time. It's like, no, the guy is toxic to someone of Kirk's emotional makeup. Yeah. He's absolutely toxic.
And it was definitely evident to me throughout the week that he was avoiding Jerry as a topic. Even on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday when they were talking about Mark Hannon getting like a promotion in the Entercom shakeup. That would have been
great too.
That would have been like a very understandable time for Kirk to go down the Jerry rabbit hole of, because he even talked about a conversation he had with Mark Hannon, a sit down, which easily could have been the next step. Okay, and then here's where Jerry didn't talk to Mark Hannon, but he didn't. He just kind of let it go. So it seems like both sides there's almost a stalemate. You could give the historical analogy there.
Yeah, I was going to, but it's okay.
But wrong show, yeah. I had it listed as a staring contest, so I that's layman terms.
It's a staring contest, but Jerry has rolled over and showed his belly. He wants no part of it. So to me, it's like, what are you going to go after a guy if he's not going to fight back? Like, it's a victory. It's over. On to the next thing.
Well, as much as I love Kirk, I'm not sure about that, VD. I think it's both more like they just turn their backs on each other momentarily. I think they're going to be back. Kirk is going to go back because he loves Jerry.
Right.
But I think
he has the loyalty towards Jerry. Yeah.
Much more than Jerry does towards Kirk.
Right.
So I think instead of rolling over on his belly, I just imagine they just turn their backs on each other. They're taking they're having a separation.
Yeah. And
they're not divorced.
The best. Yeah.
Well, I guess we should say it's been an extended separation since the original show ended. But every time you think they might have, they might get together again, Jerry blows it.
Yeah.
Fucking Jerry blows it. I mean, what Kirk says about Jerry is before it gets to a certain level of personal, Kirk's just criticizing what he's doing. And I would love Kirk to shit on me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like, it's a badge of honor, but thin-skinned, Callahan with his hair plugs and his fucking Botox and fat reduction. I mean, he can't stand that. It's his vanity.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he's in his echo chamber right now. There's no one there to kind of poke holes with him. So, he's probably very comfortable there. He doesn't want to leave that. Well, it's been a great week on the Kirk Minahan Show. This has been the rundown. I'll give you guys both an opportunity for any last words. Ziggy, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I do have to say, this week we witnessed the dumbest thing to ever come out of Kirk's mouth, and that was when the that intruder came into the studio, and afterwards, Kirk asked Steve if he had his gun on him, and I think Kirk should know Big Steve is always strapping.
Big Steve's
He's always ready to go. Yeah,
he's packing
Get
out.
the concealed carry permit.
That's one thing we can agree upon. Ned, any final thoughts?
Yeah, and I first of all, I want to thank you both, Visionless Dave and Ziggy Robinson, for the opportunity to come on the show. I also want to thank Red, who's not here, and offer a heartfelt and real apology, Red, because I said something without thinking, kind of off the top of my head, without thinking through it. Not the first time I've done that. It won't be the last, but it hurt you inadvertently. And I was completely wrong. And I was told by two friends of yours through DMs who I respect immensely. They set me straight. Once I did, I actually reached out to you and apologized. Luckily, before you got to hear how stupid it was. And like a man, you accepted my apology. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Well, of course, it's been great to have you. And that's fascinating to hear that there's at least two Red Riders out there.
There were two Red Riders out there.
Yeah.
That's right. One rides a tractor and one got a mustache as good as mine.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, folks. That's all we got this week. Thank you. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Later.
Right.